podcast, episode 9. But no, it's gone on for longer than I actually thought, because I thought I'd run out of things to say, but, you know, times are constantly changing. Yeah, anyway, there's some really concerning sort of things happening currently. I wanted to talk about one of the things that's on my mind about politics, just to start with. In the UK, there's been some sort of question panel thing, sort of involving a few party leaders, I think. Could be wrong. I think it was on the BBC, actually. I could be wrong about that as well. But HYPERSKY was on it. If anyone doesn't know, I'm already quite a big supporter of the Green Party now, because it seems like they're actually doing things right. And what they did in this question time was absolutely the right thing. I can't have to do it wrong. I've only seen clips of it, but Zach just addressed every question perfectly, and he even appealed to the audiences that he actually mentioned. Understand your anger and outrage, which is what I've been saying. This is like the strategy you need to embrace. And you know, it almost seems like he's listening to me at some points, which is fucking bizarre. When I expected that. Holy crap, that is literally something that I've been asking for, and it seems to be happening. I think now all that needs to happen is probably more sort of rage-baiting stuff, more, not so much scaremongering, but more appealing to the masses. Because, yeah, like the only way you're going to get people on board, I think, even the people who are supposedly racist and anti-immigrant, is by making the same sort of thing that Reform is doing. Making outrageous articles and stuff, and news stories. You know, fight fire and fire. I don't necessarily think that those, but offer something that's similar, and we'll get people on board. And I think that's what it's going to take still. But there is something that I need to ask people to do, because one of the concerning things in today's climate anyway is how essentially Reform might try to basically censor media, and they'll censor things like the Green Party and even free speech. So there is a big danger here, and one of these, not a real sort of, I call it an SOS situation, but there is a point at which, say we have a sudden election, I don't know if that's actually possible, we need every single UK channel that's at least progressive to start talking about the Green Party. And yes, it is a marketing campaign, but you have to understand that these channels are in danger. So inaction is essentially leading to its own demise. You know, I'm talking channels like, say, the Oscars, say innocent gaming channels. They're at risk of the same censorship, because at the moment, like the Oscars, I think are pretty progressive as they are, and whilst they're not technically allowed to get political, this situation could very well change that, because you probably need to be political now. You know, given that the channel has like 7 million subscribers, I think under half of which are probably active, we need people on board. We need people to actively go against Reform and Conservatives and even Labour. Because at the moment, every channel is at risk from this garbage. That is Reform, and anti-immigration for that matter. So it can't be ignored. Something needs to be done. And that's why I say that we need to start talking about the Green Party and basically voting for them, explaining why, even appealing to, again, the outrage and the fear. It's so important. Like, it's insanely important. So I don't know what else to add really, because again, it's really concerning. And this might be one of the biggest issues we've faced in the UK so far. before we didn't have much prevalence of social media. Back when the Conservatives were still in power, technically. But it's only gotten worse, as you know, like COVID. They already ruined it, but reform can literally change it because, again, they're at the whims of literal billionaires and probably millionaires at this point too. And they're trying to protect these people's interests, the millionaires and billionaires. So that's why we need to come together and counteract this. Any UK channel or any UK citizen for that matter definitely needs to take a stand and just say everything for what it is. You need to say that anti-immigration is a billionaire ploy to divide people and pay less, so like lower income. We need to be talking about getting back into the EU to save the economy. We need to talk about actually addressing things properly as they are. Getting proper workers' rights, getting proper benefits, and taxing the wealth as well, which is extremely important too. Jesus Christ, it's quite a dystopian place at the moment. And it'd be worse to see it as an actual, even more disturbing place, dystopian. And we really do not want to see that, ever. And this is my warning to channels, because, yeah, it's fucking creepy that something like this can even get this out of hand. Something needs to happen, and I don't exactly know what it's going to take. Again, I've got full trust in the Green Party because it seems like they're actually listening, they're actually doing the right things as compared to any other party out there. And in my 28 years of fucking being alive, I've seen some political things here and there growing up, never understood it. I knew that they were lies for the most part. And whilst there is, again, I'll just say from the room here, the chance that the Green Party could be just a massive fucking lie. Let's not forget the fact that they're saying the right things as compared to what others are saying, when they're actually lying. So it's better to believe the lie with the most truths than the lie with the least truths. And that's what it comes down to in the end. So everything is with Green at the moment. And that's all I have to say. So let's move on. So I've got a weird topic to sort of talk about, which I've talked about before. For some reason, I'll teleport to one place Final Fantasy 14. Fix it quick. Oh my god, I've had a sort of rough day. It's been some sort of, I'd call it casual terrorism, because honestly I don't understand the logic behind it. And it seems like people are just against me. But it's not really the topic I wanted to talk about, but it's just to quickly say, I'm pretty sure I'm getting stress-induced hallucinations, because it's so often that I become stressed and everything sort of changes. My body sort of needs to turn a fan on because I'm fucking flying here. What the hell's going on? I don't think it's a hallucination, no? It's too accurate. Yeah, I do not know really what the fuck goes on in people's heads when they decide that, but the other thing is, I find myself just constantly in this situation where my beliefs are put on trial, in a sense. Because I hear things from here and there that just make no sense. They don't make me happy at all, they just make me depressed. And they just remind me that, once again, the world is too stupid for you. One of the things that was brought up today was actually the so-called karma compilation. And I don't watch these, it's just on in the background at someone's house. It's very fucking concerning. Like, these karma compilations are just bizarre at times because they're not even always about karma, let alone anything happening. So doesn't make any sense from that perspective. But I'd argue it doesn't make any sense from any other perspective. Because the thing I saw in this today, which did sort of bother me, is a protest. And this was specifically, I think, done by Animal Rising. I could be wrong on that. But they're blocking the meat aisles in Asda, I think it was, or some shop in the UK. And yeah, like that garnered outrage, as you would expect. That's the point. It's supposed to make people outraged. Then that attention gets to essentially people higher up, and they start to see a problem there. But this means that people are literally taking after a civil rights movement, and idiotically people were trying to break through that block by ramming their trolleys into people, which is assault. But it's just so fucking narrow-minded, because people who react to that do not look at the meaning behind it. So you're always just going to be wrong. You'll never actually understand anything in that. It's not to say the protests were correct, the same way that people block the roads. But the way people act is essentially no better than the worst criminals. Like just saying. You know, it literally means if you're exhibiting this behaviour where you want to commit a criminal act, you're essentially on the same line as a fucking child abuser. The same line as a domestic abuser. And that's just objectively so, because I've seen this countless times. Similar sort of people do these very things just to annoy someone or to get their own way. That's an abuser mindset. It's very fucking common. And it's scary how common it is, because with the United Kingdom protests that have happened, obviously, everything around anti-immigration, and all the criminal convicts in there. It's just so obvious that people were hiding the fact they were abusive to someone. And so all these abusers who have not yet been caught or imprisoned are just out there because, you know, people don't fucking hold them accountable. The police don't hold them accountable. There's nothing. And then what of the protesters? Because you have to wonder, like, are they in the right or are they in the wrong here? It's something that's on my mind a lot when I consider these things. But it's hard to say because it's like you can't say shit like this without any hard evidence. It's just foolish. I genuinely don't understand the mindset there. It never makes any sense. Like, why are we insulting people as well? So people just need to get the priority straight. You just literally think before they act, and in this case of the protest, it's like, yeah, like, okay, these people aren't doing the nicest thing, but they're not going to, because the world is so fucked as it is. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that people are doing this sort of protests and shit. It really does not surprise me. Because that's going to happen in a world where, you know, everyone's kind of fucked in the head because of COVID, because of like, whatever it is that's going on currently. So nobody is safe from anyone. But it really goes to show the problem with people's reactions as well. I genuinely do not understand it. It makes no sense. So again, these reactions just don't do anything. So yeah, just trying to think what else. What's I can even say here? I'm trying to focus on reading abilities because it's the first time I played this class in PvP. Yeah, it's just one of those things I see it on the side and it's just like, okay, well, this is dumb. You know, just don't do it. You know, the world would be a nicer place if we understand each other, not be divided. I genuinely do not understand the logic where people just don't grasp that this happens. People literally want to have things change, have the system changed, and yet it's met with absolute condemnation, and it just doesn't work yet. I really don't understand it. So, yeah, I'm not sure what else to say here, honestly, because it's the same shit over and over again. It doesn't change, like nothing changes in a sense. I'm always so disappointed by that fact. It just never works, it never works out at all. Yeah, I don't know what else to add, really. Protests has a place for a reason, because they are effective. They get people thinking, they change minds. Because, even back then, back when civil rights were a thing, they're trying to protest even getting civil rights. I mean, black rights, women's rights, anything. It always involved a disruptive process. And you can't separate it from that, because that is what actually needs to happen to get change. It might not be convenient for you or anyone else, and yeah, people may be injured or die from it. But that's the problem of this issue they're protesting. They won't be there if there wasn't a problem to begin with. It's always the catalyst that when someone or some country just fucks up so badly, and then, you've got something like Nepal, where they fucked up so badly they killed children, and then people protested even worse, like they rioted, and they took over the government. They fucking overthrew them. Something like that could very well happen. It's not impossible at this point. So next time you criticise any sort of protesters fighting for environmental change or even women's rights again, because that's going to have to happen, there's going to be people that do it for a reason, and you have to understand that. Otherwise, you're just purposely being ignorant, being a complete idiot, for lack of a better term. So, always consider that. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Anyway, it's a bit fun. So I've watched a good 2 or 3 hours, properly, of Digimon gameplay, and I got the same impression. It's Digimon Story Time Stranger. Been watching Pedgrin play it on Twitch from the start, and it's been pretty good. It's definitely impressive. It's got more complexity than Pokemon, which is definitely a change. But I also like the designs. I like the idea of, well, there is a grind to it, which would be divisive for some. I definitely don't find myself very fond of it. But I think to evolve or make them stronger, I think you need to grind or something. I could have got that wrong, and the basic lore is there apparently for the start of the game for anyone who's first timing. And it's interesting. The digital monsters are literally digital monsters, but apparently they're so integrated into the world that they're actually almost real, and there's even one here that resembles a human. It's very bizarre. I'm very surprised by that. But it gets even more surprising because the battle system is interesting. It's like a 3v3, isn't it? It's even more interesting in that sense. And the typing is also very different. I didn't get all of it, but I saw that there's like virus and I think digital is one. But there's like vaccine as well. There's so many different types. It just became really fascinating. The type system is unique. Is it 4 Pokemon on the field? I'm looking now. I see 4 health balls. I'm not sure actually. The skills are interesting. You get attachment skills and you get special skills. I like that system. Also the trainer can, or I'll say trainer, I don't know what they actually are. But Digimon Master, say, also has an ability they can use, which is really interesting as well. And I haven't quite seen that in a Pokemon game. or Pokemon in general, actually. But the fact that they can actually interact that way in a battle is quite fascinating. But as I said, like the Digimon seem to be very ingrained in the world, from what I could tell. I saw a clip, or a brief moment anyway, of Pedguin looking at the train station, and you have a Digimon, not constructor, instructor, conductor. That's what I'm looking for. So you have a Digimon conductor, but the train is actually a Digimon as well, which is brilliant. Like, that's better than Pokemon ever could be, because that's creative. The fact that the train is even, I suppose, a digital monster. I'm not sure if they're actually sentient technically. That's just fascinating. It's no surprise that people are going onto Digimon just based on these things alone. At this point, it's a breath of fresh air. It's the sort of thing Pokemon should have been doing, but they've fought their chances to. Yeah. I haven't done as much in terms of music or story. I will say the story looks more interesting in Pokemon, just based on what I've seen again so far. It's less like, oh yeah, you're a Pokemon trainer trying to become a master, and more, oh, there's a problem in the world. It's, as the title says, Time Stranger. There's actually like bigger things going on rather than you just battling it. It's actually a linear story. It's not like a competition sort of thing with a background story like Pokemon has. This is what I can tell. The characters seem fairly diverse from what I've seen too. There's a lot of female characters, I've noticed. It's pretty unsurprising for anime, really. I don't know if there's actually that much diversity though. Having said that, it's hard to say. Also, some of the Digimon are voice acted fairly well, and voice acted to begin with, and the characters too at certain points, which I do like. It's definitely good that there's actual voice acting. The graphics of the game look pretty good. Well, they're better than Pokemon. Not perfect, but still better than some games. It just doesn't look like it's got the annoying effects that some games have, where it's like blurry on purpose or something. Like the Outer Worlds was. I remember that being weird in terms of the graphics engine. Trying to think. I do like the vibrancy of it in areas as well in Digimon here. Definitely got good aspects to it. Also, the areas seem to be separated, which is interesting. Into different zones, which is definitely going to be easy on the CPU. Yeah, some of the textures are not great, I've just noticed. Playground's in this rocky area with surrounded by an ocean, which is actually really nice looking. But some of the rock textures are a bit off here and there. You could see the pixels, even though I'm on 720p, is it? Yeah, 720p. I can see that clearly on the stream that it's not textured very well. Which is a bit weird. It's fine. For the most part, it's better than Pokemon. It's got to be a consistent thing here. Oh god. And the other thing I need to mention too, the post-processing is definitely much better than Pokemon in that sense. Actual shadows as well, actually projected. Again, Pokemon doesn't really do that very well. And actually real-time projections. Trying to think. The other thing to mention is the animations. They actually seem pretty good. Like the Digimon have proper attack animations and defense heal, whatever. There's like a finishing sort of screen, victory screen for the Digimon, which is interesting. So it tells you what you've got and stuff on farming or whatever. I don't know. It's just another thing after this, but I like the animation so far. It seems quite good. It's not perfect, I will admit, but it's better than Pokemon. For fuck's sake. It's so bizarre saying that. It's just the animations actually connect and they actually work. That's the thing that I'm noticing here. Yeah, like drop something from the sky that works. Yeah, it's less wonky than Pokemon ever was. Yeah, it actually does feel like a lot of these things connect. Uh, there was the other thing I was gonna say. Did I mention quality of life? I don't know how much there is in terms of quality of life. One of the biggest things that concerns me about Pokemon games is actually a lack of direction, a lack of quest logs, which I'd argue are very important because you do need to be able to track this stuff, especially in a game as big as Pokemon, assuming it is big, because it's not always big. You get like side quests and you'll lose track if you don't have a quest log or even objective marker. So I don't know if that is here in Digimon. I think if it isn't, that's definitely something that it needs. Given that it's already been a problem in Pokemon games for Solace. Yeah, even though I know players don't always struggle with that, I can struggle with it myself, and I think there are people out there who do. It does sort of need that quality of life to make it better. I don't think there's much else to talk about, honestly. Again, it's one of those things I could really only understand if I play it myself, which I'm not at the moment. I might in the future, I don't know yet. Actually, let's look at reviews. I didn't think about doing that before, but I think it's worth doing. Assuming it's on Steam, let's look at Sonic Crossroads for some reason. I forgot the name of it, Digimon Storytime Studio, there it is. Ooh, that's... okay, maybe not. Okay, for some reason it's got a lot of DLC already. When does it come out? 2nd of October? Fuck, it's not even a week. At least it has a demo. So £55, just not good for a price, actually. It's got DRM, which is annoying, stupid. Deluxe edition is expensive, £85. Then the Ultimate edition is £104, £105 even. It's not good. Let's see what it includes though. The content for the game. Season Pass, not good, again. Like, why the hell do we have this in 2025? Costume pack, not great. It's optional, but not great still. Like, why isn't this in the game? You know, it reminds me of this meme I saw recently. You remember back in the day when you had to play to unlock things instead of pay? This is actually it. Like, why the fuck are we paying? There's even a background music pack, that's stupid. An anime song pack, mostly negative. After Dungeons and Halls XP Guild, mostly negative as well. Pre-order back, bonus pack, also it's mixed. But it just looks like, yeah, like honestly that makes me not want to even try it. Because the fact that it's going backwards in this case means that it's not exactly a saint in this case. Like, there's better games out there than Pokemon and Digimon here. So that does dissuade me from even trying, because it means that there's going to be elements of scumminess. The games need to make their money, but a full game is the price it is at the moment. £55 unfortunately. But you're offering a partially complete game at higher cost, which is again scummy. That just shouldn't be a thing in this day and age, especially with the current economic crisis that we're going through. That nobody can afford that shit. That's why people go onto free-to-play games, which end up being scummy as well. Because they can't afford fuck all, except for internet, probably groceries, but that's literally the situation we're in. Like, I could get very political here, but literally you need to give a shit about it if you care about gamers and gaming even. Because it does affect gaming in general, and sort of, I can shift it actually, it's sort of a necessary conversation. But typically, the progressive side of politics will basically embrace things like gaming and even certain technologies. But they'll definitely, sorry for that, annoying chair. I think there's also a chance that people who are progressive will enable something like a wealth tax, so billionaire companies like Pokemon Company, and even Bandai Namco here, would probably get taxed because they're making too much money as it is. You know, there's billionaires behind it, and they need to be redistributing that wealth so that people can afford stuff like this. So it does interest gamers to get into politics, fortunately. But as I said, there are better games out there, so it's not just Pokemon. But anyway, the point is, you need to give a shit because in the end they'll come after games if it's the wrong type of party, the wrong type of people. In the UK, for example, using Labour and Reform at the moment, they want to revoke rights for specific people. It's not just minorities, but it would also be gamers down the line at some point. Because with the Online Safety Act, which has already gone to shit, and the Digital ID, which has already gone to shit as well, has been leaked, and things like what's the other thing? Yeah, censorship, that's it, and surveillance. They're going to come after games because they'll probably think stupidly again if they refer to these really stupid companies that quote unquote protect children, but they actually don't because they're not actually first in technology. They'll start banning games like GTA. They'll start banning games like Valorant and even some game like like Animal Crossing. Like they'll literally go that far because they think it's violent. They think games are a waste of time. And I wonder what the age range of these people are. Honestly, I'm gonna guess and place all my bets on 50 plus years. Because yeah, that's probably what it would be. Like any gamer, they grew up around the 90s, is probably going to be more into gaming and more accepting of it. But 70s, when it wasn't necessarily that popular, people are still watching TV a lot. Of course they're going to fucking think games are just a problem for children and a problem for people in general. But it's actually not, and that's not what the evidence says. And also, this is typically the year as well. They see I don't know what you call it actually. It's just decades. No, that's not right. But it is a decade. So yeah, probably. But it is a decade where people decided that for some reason they don't need science to decide things. You know, this is back in a time where LGBTQ plus rights wasn't necessarily accepted still. And I'm pretty sure Stonewall happened around that time, but it didn't exactly happen in an instant, and neither did the societal change. Even then, they had problems back then in their own sphere. So again, it comes from a fairly different background, or quite a different background in the matter. Probably drastic, I would say. And they do seem to think that the world revolves around them rather than future generations, which is always a bizarre talking point to me. It's just very selfish and very dangerous mindset. You know, I can't assume what people younger than me might want in the future, or they think of it even. One of the things I have to concede myself, even though I'm 28, is that people in the generation younger than me, they can have a different idea of how the world should work and how it works in their own sphere as well, and how they approach technology, how they approach different things, different topics. And you already see it with there's a fucking Nintendo, was it Mario Kart DS speedrunner, who's I think 8 years old or something crazy, and he's already set several speedrun world records, which is just fucking like nuts. Like, how does someone younger than the game even do that? It's absolutely insane. So it just goes to show that the younger the mind is, the more idea they have. And politicians really neglect that fact. They even neglect the fact that there are higher moral standards in younger people, and if you don't accept that, by the way, you're going to be a fucking nonce, like literally. You're just a waste of space, a waste of fucking air. You're absolutely stupid and narrow-minded. You shouldn't be fucking telling people, especially younger people, how their future should be decided. It's not up to you, it's up to them. It's stupid. I know when I get into my 30s and 40s, assuming I do get there, I don't think I will, to be honest. Just casual sense of dread, but I just think it's not up to me at that point. And I'll listen to whatever the younger voices are saying, because that's more important to me. I don't care necessarily what happens to me in the end, because I've lived my life, seemingly, up to that point. And it doesn't really matter what I think. It matters more what the younger generation thinks. What they think should happen, what they think the future should be. If they decide, like, oh yeah, you can't be pansexual anymore, fair enough. If you have evidence for it, I'll take it. And it's not hard to admit that. As much as I fucking love men, I'll have to give it up in that situation. That's fine. I'm not happy with it internally, definitely not sexually either. But that's what will happen if it does happen anyway. And I'll just have to accept it, because that's what, again, the younger generation wants, and that's what they think is right. And that's what they've proven right, essentially. I wouldn't really believe it if they didn't prove it. But that's the thing. If older politicians accusing GTA of being the reason behind crimes, and even minorities and gamers just in general for that matter, when it's not even them causing the problems. It's the politicians themselves. You got political figures radicalising younger people, again, so don't mean to get political, but I have to. And they're causing all these problems that people blame the games for. Even then, if there's someone who is radicalised, who plays games, suddenly it's going to be like, in the headlines, GTA player commits mass murder. Which is just such a fucking red herring to begin with, because it's not actually real. That's not actually the correlation that's being made, because there's no doubt nothing about that in the article. It's just a mention. It's just like, oh, this person happened to play GTA at one point. It's probably like, oh, it's from the 90s. It's like, so it just doesn't make any sense. And this is why I say it's a danger to ignore politics as a gamer. And this is why games get political. It's because they're at the very risk of being destroyed, being censored, because of a stupid fucking country's rules, because of censorship, because of economics as well. It's extremely dangerous, as I have to keep saying time and time again. And it's a point that I wanted to explain for a while, but I kept forgetting. But it is important to explain now. So that's it really. And if I had to say what to look out for, honestly side with those who appear more socialist rather than any other position, because there are plenty of fascists out there running for parties, and they are actually fascists, because for some reason people seem to debate that idea. But fascism is actually oppressing minorities and potentially trying to overthrow government as well. That's why you need to be aware of it. There is a real danger in that, and where there's oppression, you can guarantee they'll come after gamers at some point. They'll come after the games. So it's dangerous. That's why you need to be aware. Don't think naively and think it won't happen to me. No, it does happen. Yeah, look at China. They've got rules on that. Remember once they tried to censor for a long time the existence of blood in games, which is fucking absurd. That's what a dystopian fascist government does. They look at something and think, yeah, that's a problem, without even actually asking people about getting the evidence, and they correlate something like that probably to any mass murders that were committed there, and it's like, bro, what the fuck? You don't even know what caused it, so why are you linking it to games? It just makes no sense. So, I don't know what else to add here. It's just a frustrating situation, as I said, and again, Digimon looks promising. I'll look at the anime, at least. But I probably won't try the games yet. It'll be a while anyway, because I stopped playing Final Fantasy 14. But anyway, let's move on to another topic. Another quick random topic. Conspiracy theorists are immoral. So when I think about a moral system, it's based on the facts, and less about right and wrong, but more about facts. And one of the weirdest topics I've thought about recently, given the AI stuff, how essentially it makes serial killers look like saints, because all AI will kill us. That's essentially what's going to happen. But it really does mean that there are things out there that are still left unresolved and are trying to distract us from the things that are most dangerous to us. If you look at the US, obviously, Trump and the Epstein files, it reminds me of the UFO thing. That something happened, like, conveniently after the Epstein file stuff sort of happened, when actually the news got out that Epstein may still be alive. So there is a concern there. It's not just for safety of him just lying in general. It is extremely concerning when you consider this one other fact, saying that the UFO sighting is real. And what we saw, like the missile being deflected off it, let's be honest, it's a weather balloon, for fuck's sake. What if that was real? Well, it means that all these years that people have faked seeing a UFO, and all these FBI directors, whoever used to work there, saying that they saw aliens, they are immoral, and to me they are criminals. Because they've perpetuated a lie that's now caused us to doubt ourselves in the case of an actual UFO sighting and actual aliens. This is why I'm not so trustworthy of conspiracy theories, and over the years there's been so many reports of it, it's like, okay, I can't believe you. Like, weird facts. My dad, who is quite Christian, claims to have seen an angel in real life and seen demons expelled. I know this is bullshit, and the reason I know that is because I can't see them myself, and others can't see them. But it does make me wonder as well, there's like correlations here. So with demons, it can be smoke. With angels, as this happened at night, by the way, that's a specific detail I remember about it. It happens because of a reflection in your eyes. And there's apparently on a roundabout, so it also tells you that there's probably a sign that was on the roundabout that reflected it back into your eyes, and then, yeah. Basically, it's all bullshit, and there's often an explanation, as has been the case for many years. How fucking embarrassing it must be to claim that there is a UFO and all these years being lying. And then only for an actual UFO to appear. Suddenly, we don't know what to do. Because all these years, people have lied about what they do, what they exist for, and what they actually are like. And we don't have the correct information as a result, because of these lies. And suddenly we're faced with an alien invasion. And that's fucking dangerous. This is why you don't lie about things. There's a reason that people put their trust in other people to say the right thing, to say the facts. It's because that's the only thing we can rely on to accurately sort of tackle these topics. When there's a conspiracy theory, as I said, it's essentially the equivalent of the boy who cries wolf. Because it's trying to say that there's a big bad wolf there. Say it's like even flat Earth, for example. And they keep saying it over and over again. And then one day, suddenly it's like, yeah, nobody believes you anymore, so I'm gonna leave you alone. Then a flat Earth actually happens, it actually is a thing. And suddenly we're like, oh, well, you shouldn't have been calling for it then. You should have been lying to us, essentially. Saying that this big bad flat Earth was here. That actually always existed without actually proving it. It's like you're saying, believe me, believe me. But how can we believe you when we haven't seen it? That all this time and suddenly it becomes true. It's like, it's weird. It's probably not the best example. Maybe Bigfoot is a better example, replace it with Bigfoot. But yeah, Bigfoot's here all these years. But no. So, it's always such bullshit, really. Again, conspiracy theorists are inherently immoral. Again, because they just become untrustworthy, and that's really the gist of it. So, that's what I think on that. Anyway, let's move on. In my mind with debating topics and arguing, I wanted to talk about basically what would make me turn to reform as a fucking party, because it's a weird question, but people think that like people like me are not informed about what reform are doing and what Greens are even doing. It's a very weird question anyway, a weird claim even, that's not much a question. I don't really understand that because I'm obviously going Green because as someone who wasn't political before, I've been forced to. And I've looked at all the parties available except Lib Dems, because they're pretty much non-existent, unfortunately. And yeah, so far, like, there isn't any party that's good enough. It's only the Greens. And that's mainly due to the policies and due to basically everything they're saying. Interestingly, the thing that really makes me side with the Greens is they're saying all the right things for the very problems that we have. For example, living standards are low. How do you address that? You tax the wealth and you funnel the money back into society. And you got like massive bills and stuff, which also would help because you can also get renewable energy, get more of that, and that would help with lowering the bills. We also have another thing, which is funding the NHS, which will actually lead to better healthcare and faster healthcare for that matter, probably. So there's a lot of benefits here, and that's mainly why I support the Green Party. If I was for another party to do that, they literally need to address the things that the Green Party have addressed, but actually do something better. Not do one up, essentially. One of the things that I guess would almost convince me is if they actually sort of turn back on anything they said about disability. For example, there's a lot of bad things the reform said about special needs people. Hello, I'm one of them. And I didn't like what they're doing with that. Also the fact they're weaponising us for essentially hatred and misogyny and racism. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done even on that alone. So you can immediately sort of guess why I wouldn't go reform anyway. That's why. They've already done too much damage, and because there's so much of it, I do not feel safe with reform. That's just it, really. That's how simple it is, and that's not even going into other issues. And for some reason, reform take issue with the tax as well thing. They think that billionaires will leave the country. No, that's very unlikely to happen because, again, billionaires have assets in these countries. So, if they were to move to leave the country, not to mention with all these employees, they'd have to do something very atrocious and they'd lose investors. They'd lose a lot of fucking things in the process. So no, it's not possible. And the only way you can really, again, win me over with that is if you tax the wealth more. If you actually prove what you're doing with the wealth is actually going into the economy, and if even the leaders themselves, the MPs, prove they're not corrupt, they're not being bought out by Russia or even billionaires, and yeah, there's another point that they can win. But that's not the case at the moment, as you could probably expect. What about immigration? This has been the biggest topics of the last few months in the UK, and for bad reason, obviously. Immigration has been blamed for a lot of the problems in the country, and also it's understandable. It's not exactly the right thing to believe. It's not the actual issue of the country. People coming in illegally and not obviously going through a due process, which by the way most actually do go through the process. But it's crazy that the blame is being put onto immigrants rather than, again, billionaires. There's probably a theme here of, again, billionaires being the very problem of the world at the moment. It's because they pay low income to migrant workers, and migrant workers supposedly take the jobs that nobody else will. It's like farming jobs. Who here listening to this would do that for what? Like £8 an hour? I don't know how much the minimum wage is for that. But a fucking farming job for £8 an hour? Like backbreaking labour, like bending over, picking up shit, standing in a field, and not to mention you're probably getting like cartons, probably attacked by like insects and stuff. Like, it's horrible work, and there's even like a chance of something even more horrific where you have to take an animal's life because they're invading. It's like who the fuck even wants to do that job? Genuinely, that is the question. So, again, the only way they can win me over is if they do something about the low income and start actually allowing a more accessible job for people to do. So it needs to be a better income, and it needs to be something like actually forcing billionaires to pay for the income that people actually need, and allowing more jobs in the process. I'd also add a second thing, it's like that the Green Party actually hasn't addressed, and that would be a ban on, or at least a complete limitation of technological replacements, as in having jobs replaced by technology should be pretty much a no-no. Because in the current economy and stuff, it's not going to be affordable. As much as there is a place for certain technologies to replace people's jobs, again like farming, even though there's a sort of health aspect to it, you also need to pay for people's healthcare. If it's like automated, it will be generally less stressful, and people can just repair that equipment even that automates it. But the point is, when you look at the shops and stuff, and you see that checkouts are being slowly replaced with more self-checkouts, that's not a good thing at all. And especially with my experience with self-checkouts being mainly negative. The people there can be very mixed to overlook the self-checkout part. The self-checkout itself is very unreliable at times, and it's just awful to navigate, especially for people not of that generation. You know, I only really remember self-checkouts from like 2008, I'd say. And it didn't really become popular until like 2013, from what I noticed. And the fact they're more prominent is not actually a good thing. So, putting limitations on that would be good, especially with the uprising of AI, and also regulating AI as well. For that matter, would be very beneficial. That's how you win me over with the immigration aspects, well, part of it anyway. I suppose the other part is to do with housing and asylum seeking. But really, there isn't much to say on this because currently the system is actually broken. I've done my research on this. There is no proof that asylum seekers and immigrants are coming here to take money and commit crime. There's no proof of this, only anecdotes. But that isn't proof. Again, those people who've done this are supposedly the catalyst for anti-immigration. Again, I'm saying this unbiasedly, but only under 1% of immigrants. So, what the fuck gives? Something isn't adding up here, and I'm not convinced that they are the problem. At the end of the day, and until someone can prove that they are, I'm not going to side with that. I could just as easily switch. And as I said, if it's proven, if you can say like, oh, it's like 25%, yeah, I'd start to be worried. Because that is a lot of fucking crime. Especially for that population. Especially when you offer them all this stuff. All the food, all the fucking housing, the drink, and even money. Like, are you kidding me? Of course I'd fucking side with you. But no, that is not the case, and I'm not going to follow a bunch of idiots who believe that an under 1% population, who, again, in that own population, like the population's like, I think it's like 5% immigrants now or something, and then underneath that, in that population itself, it's like under 5% of that criminals as well. So it doesn't add up. Again, as I keep saying, some of these people have families too. So it's not just about the crime rates. It's also about addressing how you deal with immigrants as a whole. So say there was a 25% crime rate in immigrant populations and refugees. Firstly, how do you deport them? That's one of the bigger questions I have. Because you're not going to fit them all on a plane, you're not going to fit them all on a boat. Especially over the span of like a few years, which will be impossible. Not to mention disruptive and really bad for the environment. So how do you address that? Well, there isn't any way, in my opinion. And then you've got families, which you 100% can't separate, just on a human rights perspective, because that is important. It's still human at the end of the day. You don't have an opinion if you actually just promote hatred. But how do you treat them more like humans? Like saying, okay, you're a nice family, bye bye. What the fuck? Like, you can't really do that respectfully. Especially if they made their home here and they made friends and stuff. Now imagine what the kids go through when they have to say goodbye to school friends and stuff. Like, it's so cruel. Like, that's so ridiculous, the fact that it can happen. And then I'm not even going into the issue about how the majority of anti-immigrant people, like, it's not even Immorality at this point, like, it's literally so many people, end up being these people who are actually evil. They do not protect women and children, and that's another thing as well. But anyway, on that point, how do you address that most white people, British white people, are committing crimes against immigration, against immigrants? Like, how do you address that? Because they're in the majority there. they're doing all these crimes against humanity for that matter, murdering fucking children and raping them, while saying that they shouldn't be in this country. Like, there's no justification for that, and that is like one of the bigger things with Reform Party, I guess. You know, the majority of these people are like that. They support rape, they support child abuse and domestic abuse. You have to address that as well. So that's what leads into that topic. So women's rights, feminism, and even children's rights, which for some reason need to be brought up, because even though we established it many years ago, it seems to be another topic. So for women, it's a bit more easy to argue in all honesty, because it's like, you know, if you're an adult man, just imagine yourself as an adult woman, and there you go, you pretty much got your answer. Yeah, I wouldn't want periods, I wouldn't want to go through pregnancy, I also wouldn't want to go through misogyny and just utter objectification of my own body. That tells me all, well, not all, but most of what I know about women's rights. So to address that, and also like, there's also the case where a lot of female victims do not get justice because their abusers have gotten away with it for one reason or another. But I'd also ask that something be done about that. Actually enact proper imprisonment for people. You know, if there's like, if it's beyond a reasonable doubt, I guess. Yeah, like, people like that who have been abusing women should be put in prison. Or just abusing anyone for that matter, it's not just women, let's be honest. Then it goes into the topic around children, which for some reason we need to discuss. I think it's really important as well. You know, children have as much right to be here as everyone else. You know, they're the future, but they need to have a proper education. They need to not be indoctrinated, they need literal unbiased views and facts. And currently, at least from what I've heard anyway, like the school system does kind of do that. But they do need to teach more. They need to teach about morality and ethics, they need to teach about critical thinking, empathy, far more important things than learning about Greek mythology, I'm afraid. Yeah, that's one of the big things that needs to happen for like children themselves as well to be protected. We need proper, I don't know what's it called, like community service maybe, where trusted people with no convictions are essentially able to act as like a police force, and basically if they find anyone suspicious, like criminals, even just children being suspicious, like yeah, those people should be able to arrest the children and arrest the criminals in that matter, like stalkers or predators. And we need something like that to protect them. Which also kind of coincides with, again, the immigration stuff, which people have spammed, which is not actually the majority, so it doesn't really matter that much. But again, the bigger problem is white British men, as usual. So we need to protect ourselves from them, basically. We need to protect children from them. But I think I've covered like most things anyway. You know, that's what it'll take to bring me to that side. Not to mention like disability and stuff, we need better rights, we need better income, even support for that matter. You know, my biggest problem being autistic and again having learning difficulties is that people don't always recognise it. They think because I'm so quiet, I can't think, I can't make decisions for myself. And that's always been a big problem since childhood. I just quite naturally, I don't really have any reason to speak. It's like part of my autism. And I have speech issues. One of the other big things with autism as well, people really misunderstand it, so we need proper funding into autistic specific help services and support, and even housing, because currently a big problem in my own situation at the moment is just a terrible housing situation. But us autistic people really need a place where our sensory overloads can be limited, and one of the only ways I think you can probably accurately do that is by putting housing out of the way of everything else, and probably make it exclusive to autistic people, and also have a community there as well. I can share it with them and understand them, like mental health workers and stuff. It's one of those things where it's like so simple to do as well. It literally doesn't harm anyone. Yeah, I have big problems with sound and to an extent visuals, but it's not so bad these days. I'm still finding ways around it. The sound is like the biggest thing. I need a house that will soundproof everything, so I don't hear anything on the outside world. I don't want to hear thunder, I don't want to hear fucking planes or cars. Like, I'm fed up with that. It doesn't matter where you build it, as long as you can build it well. And also a reasonable space, for that matter. I definitely need a space that is a reasonable size and has everything I need. Like, thinking like a small two-story house, not necessarily connected to others, but thick enough wall that you wouldn't even notice. So it needs to be built in that sort of way. There's actual like safety as well, and yeah, like not many sensors being exploited in that sense, and also really good windows. I don't know if you can get soundproof windows. I know you can get bulletproof, but soundproof, I don't know, they might go hand in hand. I don't know. It's really important to have these needs met, because various people will. Why did the game just suddenly? So I was getting distracted by the booty on the Final Fantasy 14. That's interesting. I've never seen that before. Anyway, back to the awesome stuff. It definitely needs proper requirements met and basic needs met as well. I think there needs to be like support groups as well. They could pop in and say like, yeah, do you need any help or anything? Help you go to doctors and stuff. There's many different things that need to be addressed there. Again, it's not hard to do, and if you tax them off, you can literally start making things like this. You make things like this a reality for disabled people. Make better living conditions and, even support them to work. For those that can work. It's just a lot of that needs addressing. So again, another thing that would essentially win me over. At the moment, again, I can't reform just stand against everything that I stand for. So there's no way that it will happen. And even if they do, I'm still going to be skeptical because, again, what they say in like a manifesto is different to what they say in person, but what they say as well, in terms of, I don't know, like going on talking points and stuff, when they argue and stuff, there's so many different things passed around. I just don't want to deal with the fact that there is a party that stands against all those basic things, that we have human rights. I don't want to support that. That's obviously why I'm going green. No other choice here. I think people who are left leaning and stuff, especially, you definitely need to understand that we're not going to beat reform without coming together and agreeing on something, without agreeing on a single party system. Because if we're divided, which no doubt will still be anyway, we'll not actually have anything in the future, as I keep saying. Everything we once thought was safe, like even like benefits and housing, just suddenly disappear because for some reason we decided to be divided and let a literal fascist party win. Like, are you kidding me? And this could have been solved, like, could be solved now. So I don't understand the entire argument that for some reason we can't agree on things when we actually need to at this point, because the world could be heading for disaster. It could be heading for America, for that matter, like the way that America happens to arrest immigrants and put people of minorities in these concentration camps, only for them to never be seen again. That's what we're heading towards, and a lot of the idiots in reform, unfortunately, do not notice this fact. So we have the big danger here of a potential ICE situation and the reform voters themselves getting calmer because, let's be honest, they're stupid enough to vote this and they're stupid enough to go into a concentration camp. Like, you're kidding me? Like, stupid enough to get detained. Because that's not what reform wants, exactly. Yeah, that's my take on this anyway, as a sort of update, I guess. So let's move on. So I'll try to do a quick one, but here we go. So I've been thinking about this recently after I saw briefly a video about this topic, and I thought I'd have to talk about this because I completely forgot about this. I was going to address it a long time ago, but then I got distracted, obviously, as ADHD does, and I forgot, so let's get right into it. Religious beliefs and harm. So I'm obviously atheist, and there's a very good reason why. Simply put, nothing has been proven. And because of that very fact, I do not prescribe to religion in the slightest, not even for a community, not even for any sort of discipline, like there's nothing. And that's because I've found my own way to deal with my problems. And there are people who use religion as a way to deal with their problems. I've heard this countless times. The way we sort of find issues is that people with utter hatred and contempt will end up in those religions too, to a certain extent. And these are typically the people who might follow the religion more closely, or might even just not follow it at all and give the religion a bad name. You'll have this everywhere. But it's interesting because with the recent anti-immigration stuff, there's always been this conversation about Muslims in particular and how they've come to the country to spread the religion, and that's not even what's going on, which is a crazy thing because the majority of Muslims in the UK are actually white British. So this means that this in fact is not an actual fact, and it means that people are going on board this religion rather than actually having been researching it. I don't know what to say exactly, but it's not what you think it is, and that's really what's happening here. It's someone who's from another country for sure, let's not ignore that fact, who's spread this information. It's not even necessarily in person as people think it is, and I've convinced someone to turn to Islam as a religion, and that's not always a bad thing. In fact, the more diversity the better. But you find again the difference between people with again utter hatred and contempt and people with only peace and love in their hearts. And it's really decided by what we've currently seen in the anti-immigrant movement, where people who have committed harm just end up there by natural selection, I guess. Like, there's no other reason. And the people who follow the same religion but do not do harm will not appear there because they're not those types of people. So there's already this inequality in that sense, and that causes many issues. It leads to irrational beliefs about the other side. But the people who also go by peace and love will stand in solidarity with other religions. They'll not, well, they could criticise it, but that's besides the point. It's a neutral thing to criticise something. But they will stand side by side and essentially treat religion as one whole umbrella. They'll share the same umbrella. It's actually the best way to put it. And you've got idiots who stand outside and just point at them like you're a traitor or you're an evil religion or something. There's always horrible shit like that. But one of the things that really interests me, of recent anyway, is to do with the fact religion can advocate for somewhat harmful things. And this is important to discuss because there is a very real issue of this. And if you look at something like unfortunately Islam as an example, there are writings about having, supposedly anyway, it's just writings, I don't know if it actually advocates for it, but about having child wives and even murdering people who do not follow the religion. And yeah, that's harmful. But the thing you have to look at here is no religion is exempt from that. I think pretty much all of them, bar a few, are like this. They have some sort of advocation for actual harm to people who don't follow. There's some advocation for enslavement. I know that in Christianity it's a real thing. There's plenty of bad things if you find it in a religion. If you look hard enough, it's there. But again, that's an issue because it doesn't necessarily mean that religion as a whole is bad. This is where I introduce the concept of selective religion. What I mean by that is, and there's probably a better word for it, there's probably a word I don't know about. People who follow a religion can basically pick and choose what they want to believe. And this is the side I stand on and stand with. I think it's very important to recognise that because in today's world, especially with this anti-immigration stuff, it gets very conflated and very misrepresented. Because there are people who prescribe to, for example, being Muslims, but they end up having a normal family, they end up having, I don't know, atheist partners and stuff, but that's because of the nature of selective religion. They pick the parts that they like and will prescribe to, and then ditch the ones that obviously don't align with modern society, don't align with humanity for that matter. That's why we don't always see, for the most part anyway, like Christians going out there and enslaving people. Like, there are people who do not prescribe to that at all, and in fact most condemn it anyway. So that's why that happens. That's why selective religion is a thing. And a lot of people realise with empathy as well, they would not want to be enslaved either. They would not want to be, in Islam's example, like a child wife. Like, there's plenty of examples of that. You know, it's well, actually that's a stupid thing to say, child. Because I do suppose like children are smart enough anyway to know there's a creep. But that's the thing though. The people who want to misuse religion will misuse it for their own effect. And that's true for every religion. You've seen Israel do it with Palestine and basically pairing all the Muslim people in Gaza as the same terrible people as Hamas. And it's disgusting. But you see it with America, where I think religion is now being used as a tool to condemn the progressive people, and yeah, it's misusing it, obviously. But do people recognise that? Do people choose to recognise that? No. So you have this issue, and yeah, it sucks. That's the gist of it anyway, from what I've observed. I think this is an important topic to have because, again, it causes real world harm when people do not talk about this. And yeah, it's selective religion is the only thing that should be practiced. Because I think when people choose to ditch something that isn't necessarily convenient for people or humanity and can lead to real world harm and is actually just objectively, I mean, morally wrong, that's good. We should be encouraging that. You know, I don't want to get into how much I would debate people on religion as obviously something that's irrational to believe. But I'll let people be as long as they're not harming anyone else. And that's all it takes. That's all it is. So the more we encourage that, the better the world will be. So, people are wondering why the hell do we take the Green Party seriously now? It's a question that's posted everywhere for some reason, and I think it's a bot thing, to be honest. Well, there's no other explanation for why it's appearing, but no doubt some idiot will grab onto that sort of concept and try to push it just until the point of like just disintegrating. But fuck me, why do we have to explain this? Because it's quite obvious. People with the knowledge and the brains will try to find ways to counteract reform. And whilst this isn't necessarily the primary objective for people at the moment, it's certainly become as a result of wanting to see a better, obviously UK, a better England. The problem is, England looks like it will be ruined by reform, so we need to get serious about politics. So to start with, we need to find someone who represents us. So basically the values that we have, like equality, better economic situations for everyone. You know, it's also probably impacts me as well, or my family, like whoever. Like, there's plenty of people who benefit. But we need someone who can do that and more. And in that research, I came across three parties, as there's many other people, I think. Reform, which have currently gone against everything I stand for. Labour, / your party, is pretty much the same thing, let's be honest. Even though Labour's been hijacked, your party is just doomed to fail. But they didn't really have anything. That's the thing, they couldn't decide on anything, and they didn't have anything as a result. So there wasn't really anything there that really grabs anyone's attention. But then there's the Green Party, who have made themselves quite known now, thanks to the new leadership with HYPERSKY. And it seems that Green, except for one small thing, stand for everything that I do, and even what other people do. And I've seen content creators on TikTok and YouTube who are previously like pro-Labour and pro-Lib Dem suddenly turn to the Greens as a solution, which is just amazing. That shows how far the leadership has gone there. And the reason why people take that seriously is because it's the only one that speaks to their issues. Where reform doesn't really offer a solution. Green Party will offer something for those problems. So it's essentially a win-win, regardless of who you stand with, in terms of opinions and stuff. There's more benefits to the country and even reform voters that with the Green Party than there is a Reform Party with Green voters. Why? Because the Reform Party has countless issues. It stands for racism and fascism, as proven by, again, these policies, like they don't want special needs people working, even though they're trying to force them to work. They don't want special needs schools, I don't think. Like, it's absolute fucking insanity. And this is not even talking about the immigration stuff where they want to deport people, which you can't realistically do because there's hundreds of thousands of immigrants in the UK, both legal and illegal, and refugees. So you can't do all of that. It's impossible. It's a fucking delusion. Then you have to look at the fact that Reform essentially been bought out by billionaire companies, and on top of that, Russians. So everything that Reform is currently putting forward and have been exposed about is literally fucking... it's just really bad. I can't understand how people actually take Reform seriously. That's the thing that gets me, and they're, on top of that, they're Trump lapdogs, so they're not actually about protecting children. Children are not safe around Trump. How do you think they'll be safe around someone who fucking licks Trump's boots? Are you fucking kidding me? I'd argue you're a paedophile as well. It's just fucking absurd. God, I don't even have kids, and that fucking rolls me up. Just absolutely nuts. I don't understand how people can take Reform seriously. It just makes no sense at all. So, yeah, of course, Greens are going to get my interest and my vote. Because I'm not even a membership. I've never joined a fucking party for a membership before, but I am going to do it. Because they're the only party that gives a shit about the issues I care about. The only person who gives party even, it's not just a person, it's a party as a whole. The only one who can give a shit about other people, even those that they would otherwise disagree with. So it's a no-brainer whenever you look at this situation. It's so obvious that they are the only party that cares about fixing the UK, about solving the immigration problem. And it's not really a misleading quote, really. And I say that they're going to solve the immigration problem. What they'll do is they'll get proper housing for immigrants, from what I've heard anyway. And they're going to fund it properly so that immigrants don't end up in bad housing, bad places like asylum hotels. And they'll be able to live a pretty normal life, which will lead to a decrease in crime. And on top of that, we'll also have more jobs. That's what the Green Party stands for. They're actually the only party, and this is a thing that's brought up by like people in my family, like older people, but there's never been a working class party ever. The Conservatives who said they were, not even Labour since like whenever. Like nobody. And even then, like some of the Lib Dems in like local places haven't been so great. So when we hear that the Green Party is promising more jobs and better pay, honestly, you should be taking it. You shouldn't be fucking ignoring this and saying that Zach is a liar, saying that the Green Party has never been relevant. Well, if you don't make them relevant, then you'll have all the problems you've been complaining about worsened by like fivefold or tenfold. Like, it's frankly absurd, again, that people take Reform seriously. Because in the end, Green Party is the only one addressing it. Yeah, you've got a problem with the economy, you're not getting income, you're not finding jobs. Look at the Green Party then. So they're the only one who's actually representing a working class party, in my opinion, anyway. So again, this is why we take it seriously. And to mention the thing that I take issue with in the Green Party, I think it's kind of obvious, but it's the leaving NATO one. I think that's definitely a bad thing. It was in a Sky News interview with Zach Polanski. It's not the biggest problem we have, but it's one that we can easily discuss. You know, it's just... if we leave NATO, that leaves us open to many more problems. But then again, what the fuck is Russia doing? Bribing reform. So we only have one choice here that actually works. There's someone who's going to build a stronger economy and allow us to live better lives, and then we can inform his decisions by protesting, saying, don't leave NATO. Problem solved. So for the most part, we can at least try. But with going with reform, you're going to leave NATO as well. So, again, it's a no-brainer. It makes no fucking sense that people choose to believe this lie, this delusion about various things. It's just a joke. I really don't understand it, honestly. So, yeah, don't know what else to add here, but that's why people take green seriously. So, let's end the topic now and I'll move on. Got another weird sort of topic to talk about. This just suddenly come up. I heard it's so funny something. So back to the topic, I can't remember where I left off, but anyway, it's a weird topic. Sort of interesting, if you like movies, if you like Sonic. So I knew about the Sonic 3 movie a few... Actually it's like over 8 months ago, over a year ago even. And I had watched previously the first and second. But the problem with those movies is that they just didn't speak to me on any sort of level. Comedically, it had moments, but it wasn't great. Animation-wise, definitely looks okay. Like, the characters don't really remind me of Sonic that much, but I guess they sort of work. Tails especially is very fluffy. That's what I remember about him. I definitely wanted to take him home. Seriously, why can't I take him home? Anyway, there's story points which I think... The first one I didn't like. The first one was just pretty bad, I think. Because it's just like discovering Sonic and sort of spoilers, obviously. And there was some story point with Eggman, I believe. In the second one, it was with Tails and somehow Tails and Knuckles coming to the planet. Sort of countering Knuckles and then going and countering Eggman. I specifically remember a joke about a mushroom. What was that joke? I can't remember. It was like a mushroom joke, I can't remember. Eggman said it. I will say Eggman was pretty good. I did like the Eggman parts, as usual. I really like that in terms of like the TV and movie medium, I hated Sonic Boom. Eggman was just consistently good in pretty much anything. It's a shame that the games didn't really follow suit, at least much, in those steps. But I really liked when Eggman had personality. He wasn't just a villain, but he was also a goofball. I miss that. But it looks like Sonic 3 has the same recipe, but they have... Is it Ivy Robotnik? I forgot the second one. But it's really interesting because now I'm considering watching it because of a clip I saw on Pigman's stream. It's actually a tangent. And it was the Eggman dance to the song Don't Hold Back. Which is a song I haven't heard in a while. It's just really interesting, and I was wondering like, okay, well, what the hell is this song? It's just a song I knew. So I looked it up, and it essentially, I didn't expect it. You know, I haven't had a song in a long time, but then I looked at the comments. It's like, okay, 2011, this song. Someone said 2024 Eggman. It's like, what? Did someone say, someone make something with this? It turns out it's a fucking movie. The Sonic 3 movie has this song in it. It's just really interesting. I looked it up, and it's literally an entire fucking dance scene between Dr. Eggman and Ivor Robotnik, is it? Yeah, I think so. I really can't remember the name for some reason. But oh my god, that was great. That was funny. I did really like that scene. It's just based on what I saw there. It's interesting. Yeah, because that's definitely made me consider watching it. I think there's a good reason to, because it does look like the movie's got its moments again. As I said, I didn't enjoy the first two movies, and there are very specific reasons for it. Again, I might consider this one because that seems to be giving me a bit of hope. It might actually be something I enjoy. So it's worth a try. And this one has Shadow in it, which, believe it or not, I grew up with Shadow. It's quite a Shadow fanboy like everyone else, but eventually I got bitten by the cuteness bug and started moving towards like Tails, Cream. Amy was actually kind of cute as well, in her own way. Yeah, just add more in the it's affinity, or fur affinity. I don't know. Add an affinity for good characters, and yeah, that's basically my main appeal towards certain games and genres, for sure. That's why I play a lot of it here, as you can see if you're watching it. So it's interesting. So I'm going to try Sonic 3 at some point when I finish Black Mirror. I'm not going through it quick because I'm under a lot of stress. Going through a lot of shutdowns and burnout. It's extremely frustrating. Could be worse, I guess. I could be going through fucking 80s. Oh god. It's another random tangent I could go on here. I watched a compilation of like, I think it was 90s actually, but 80s and 90s adverts with some family. And 90% of them were for the Toyota Hilux. Or Hilux, however you say it. It's fucking. What the hell? It's so funny. It's so bizarre. Well, I just wasn't expecting that when looking at these adverts. I was expecting more cringe over shit like every housewife needs something. But there's actually Toyota Hilux all the time. It's quite funny. But that's weird because only since then I've noticed that I've seen like 2 or 3 of them on the road. Only in the past few months. It's really interesting. Yeah. I think it's just a topic anyway. Some of those adverts have aged well, but others not. It's quite funny though, even when they've not aged well at certain points. Yeah. So anyway, that's enough of that topic, all those even. Yeah, I'll try Sonic 3 in the movie. Let's move on. So another Sonic thing, which is weird, but I don't know where these have come from exactly, but there's like these memes of, I think, Sonic Adventure being sort of, I don't know, like reanimated, but also just remade into something, and it's not actually what you think it is. It's it's nice thing Dodger. It's true watching this live and better in the stream. But it's really sort of eerie in some ways, but also extremely cringe. It's like you never seen Sonic Adventure like that before. It's like so awkward as well. But the only problem with it, the animation is good, but the AI voices are just so fucking unsettling. I don't understand what goes through people's minds when they do this because it doesn't really work. And the only reason I say that is because it's again AI. As we know about AI, it leads to bigger problems. The data center needs to do that. Sometimes it's a problem, but if it's done locally, then yeah, it can still be fine. But it does bring into question the ethics as well. Like, did the voice actor give permission to the voice actors? Did people actually want this? So, Also, why can't we do voice impressions? The point of voice impressions and imitation is that it tries to mimic the original. I'd like to use the example of, I'll say, O2 Munich Productions, who make some really great songs, and mainly covers. Like, it's mainly covers, but in a different style. So I think one of my favourites is probably like the Ramstein style covers, where he makes basically all these different covers of different songs, like "Take on Me" by Aha, but in the style of Ramstein. And guess what? He does the voice perfectly. But on top of that, he does others as well. He's done Black Sabbath, he's done AC/DC, which is insane. He's also done Surge Tankin on System of a Down, which is just fucking hell. Like, it's shockingly good. Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I first heard his stuff, and it was like, wow, okay, there's still hope for humanity, because someone is doing the impression of Serge Tankian and singing something like Nice Like Bonita or Ironic, which is really good. Particularly of which, I do need to subscribe to the Patreon to get those songs, because they're really good. Unless, maybe, actually I don't know, because sometimes they're released to YouTube. I'll probably will pay for the Patreon anyway. I'll figure out a way, but I want to download some of them because they are actually genuinely good. It just goes to show that there's a lack of creativity out there now. Because if you can't even do an impression, obviously as perfectly as O2 does, which not everyone can, you need to try, and you need to potentially even work together with someone else. And that's really important. I just don't know what to do to address this exactly, because these summer convention things can be funnier if it was an impression. But currently it's AI, and it's like, okay, the funny thing is the animation, not the fucking audio necessarily. But you could probably do something where you just mute the audio itself and keep the subtitles, but only play the relevant audio. So like one of them I saw was like these disturbing the peace with Persona check. But you can literally mute the audio and have that cut in. So I just don't get why AI is used to begin with. That's the confusing thing here. It just doesn't need to exist, and yet for some reason people do it. If I was even remotely a vocalist, I'd definitely give it a shot. I'd try to impersonate Sonic, for example. I'm not going to try it here because I don't know, just like an offset. What's that? You want me to try? Hell no. No, definitely can't. My voice isn't very versatile. As you can tell, it's not even fully developed. 28, by the way. So, I don't know. It definitely needs to be better content out there. As I said, like, sort of in the political sense, it needs to be regulated, like AI, and companies like TikTok and YouTube need to be held accountable for redistributing it, because it spreads a very real issue of misuse and, in this case, just lack of creativity, because, let's be honest, we should be policing that sort of thing. If anyone's generating this sort of content when it's very well someone who's capable of doing it, even doing it over time, like practice, it's just up to like the scrutiny. It's definitely morally wrong. So you can have AI generated crap, AI generated shit for that matter. But I don't know, I could be wrong on this in its entirety, but I'm not really backing down from the AI stuff, because it is such an atrocity to not just art, but humanity in general. It sort of ties into that thing I said in my own speech about it a few days ago, I think it was. I literally said, because of how AI can rebuild itself and become a full AI, is the words of Stephen Hawking, it can literally become such a problem that it makes serial killers look like saints. It makes genocidal maniacs like Hitler look like saints. So it's a big issue. Yes, even the generative stuff. Yes, even ChatGPT. These are big problems because these are part AIs, and when put together, well, welcome to hell. So that's what I think about it. That's what I think about these, not necessarily just Sonic Adventure AI, but anything. It's very concerning. So I hope people consider actually doing creativity in these sort of spaces. You know, the animations for Sonic Adventure, as usual, are kind of cringe, not aged well. But the voice acting could be definitely done by a human. I can tell you that. So that's all I have to say on that topic. I don't know why I put into this topic. I was thinking about a Cindy Lauper parody. That's just made up. Obviously, girls want to have fun, but it's like Windows users instead. When the Windows update is done, users just want to use some, I don't know, something like that. But yeah, this all ties into the topic, which I've been documenting slightly. I've been using Windows 11 for the past week, as I updated it last week. And I've got things to say. Obviously, there's still a lot of problems and things haven't changed really. I will say Microsoft Edge is still laggy as hell. Let me double check, because I did restart and change the setting. Also enabled hardware acceleration. Okay, it's improved. I've disabled our settings, 2 settings. It seems to have worked, okay. But that's good. Don't need to worry about that much. But there's still many other problems. So since putting my PC into hibernation, I've found that Windows Spotlight doesn't work properly all the time. I don't know what happened, but it's only happened for the first few days that I had hibernated my PC. It just shows a black screen, for seemingly no reason. One issue it did kind of fix, but I'm not sure if it's because of the launch time. It takes like 30 odd seconds, same as pretty much a fresh restart or something. Well, turn it on even. But I didn't really notice much else different really. Like, it's the same as having a PC on sleep. It's good, but the black spotlight is just so weird. It just feels so eerie. I don't like that. So hopefully it gets fixed. I did say maybe I should reset my PC. I don't know. The taskbar overflow menu is still problematic. It keeps hiding icons. And I need a fix so I can actually fucking view things. And yeah, the focus thing doesn't actually work properly. Like, I can't pin this shit to the taskbar. Like, if I wanted to quick access something, no, I can't drag it for some reason, some stupid reason. You can't right click it to pin it. Like, there's so many obvious quality of life changes that are needed to make it even viable to begin with. But I still don't like that all my items are hidden when I have so many open. So that's just stupid. So I could close some more documents here, close this one. Let me... I think it might have crashed. The world keeps having this issue where it just crashes for seemingly no reason, then I have to open everything again. Just fucking annoying. Next thing is Notepad. It's a cool thing with Notepad actually. It now creates new lines when writing a sentence. So it knows when you've written a sentence. So it'll sort of shorten it by the window. If you press enter obviously to create a new line, it will keep it as that. So if you do that for the same line I think, and then shorten it, yeah, no, it's clever. It still works the same way it has, but it just now doesn't cut off things, which was annoying in the last one. And also there's a annoying Files for Explorer softlock which keeps happening every now and then. I say it's a soft lock because that's literally what it is, but it just seems to make everything sort of stop working. Like, not stop working, but pause. It's basically like pausing something, and I don't know why this keeps happening. It's super fucking annoying. It really gets on my nerves. Like, I hate this shit because it happened in Windows 10. When I'm like editing videos or something, and I'm like, oh, okay, there hasn't been many today. Turns out if you refresh it, there's been a ton of replays, so yeah, that shit needs to be fixed still. Not sure exactly the way to address it. The tab function works well, having the tabs. I can't complain about that for most of these things here. I suppose Word needs that now, technically speaking. Yeah, Word stopped working, great. It still has this issue. That's another one, even a new one. But it just not responds, and you just want to click the X, and it won't tell you they want to stop it. You want to stop the process. Just stupid. Again, why the fuck is that an issue? It's probably crashed Excel, no? Well, that's new. It used to crash Excel as well. Or has it? Oh, that's just frozen. Okay, no, it's not responding. Great, spoke too soon. So still has some issues, and it hasn't opened all my Word documents. Great. Again, this shit needs to be fixed. So I don't know why it's still having these problems. Anyway, that's just like a Windows 11 update. So yeah, it's okay, but it's not great. So here's a conversation about something that's really corrupt. This is about the fake meat controversy in the EU Parliament that's happened recently. I think it's been going for a few days. I thought it was less than that. Anyway, I've got a lot of things to say about this, and it's just such a stupid thing to begin with. Because this assumes that people, or the farmers, who are lobbying about this, are basically saying that the majority of people are stupid. Which says a lot about how corrupt the governments actually are, especially if they're implementing this law. And it's just really fucking bad. Like, come on. I don't know a single person who's confused by beef burger and veggie burger. There's literally not a single case where people have been confused by that at all. I've not seen that in person, I've not seen it online. I've not even seen the argument even made from politicians, so like, what gives? There was nothing here to begin with. So making a point out of nothing and saying you can't call something a veggie burger because that's apparently misleading. Well, by that logic, you can't call it a chicken burger either. Because if it's only restricted to beef, then obviously chicken burgers can't exist. So you've already fucking defeated your fucking argument, and you're also going to destroy even your own fucking industry. A good job there. Absolute idiots. But I think there's something to do with corruption here, because obviously it's a very few amount of like farm lobbyists who are trying to get it banned so they can essentially rake in all the profits when people are looking for a burger that won't also work because people are not stupid. So it's really bad that this is happening because it's not necessarily going to damage plant-based products. Anyone who's already plant-based will be seeking it to begin with, and whatever it gets called, people will be buying it still. So it's not actually doing any damage. And this is proven by the fact that people can read and people can see. But this also causes an ableist issue in two different ways I can think of. The first one is with intolerances. Generally, when people have an intolerance, it's because they can't tolerate it, meaning they get a reaction that affects their body, harms them in some way. So when you start removing these labels, saying that you can't get like a, for example, gluten-free burger, a veggie burger, let's say. Well, if you remove both those labels, or well, in this case, of the bill do, if you change it to something like gluten-free veggie disc, what the fuck is that? Like, nobody's going to recognise that as a disc. They're just going to call it a burger. You know, if it looks like a burger and it smells like a burger, especially a veggie burger, it's still a veggie burger. Like, it's so dumb to even have this fucking law in place. And I think the people who voted to have this accepted, because it was a majority vote, definitely needs to be investigated for corruption. 355 to 247. The 247 people actually have a somewhat brain and don't seem to take bribes. But there's 355 people who are also stupid enough to believe this, without any evidence, by the way, without any study, without any surveys, without anything. Which says a lot. It means they're corrupt. So something like this needs to be addressed properly, and again, people like this need to be investigated. Simple as that. Because it's also a distraction from other issues around the world currently. You know, we just saw apparently a ceasefire in Palestine versus Israel, and this is literally a distraction from all that. There's no other fucking reason that they're bringing this up again after so many years of this being discussed. It's a distraction, simple as. So don't forget, free Palestine. The other people it affects, as well as also people with allergies, which is sort of in the same category here. Then you got the people who are actually in a smaller minority here. The people who are supposedly vegan but possibly have blindness or possibly have something else, and rely on technology to essentially read that out for them. And how are they going to read like a veggie burger? Like, how the fuck are they going to read that if it's named something like veggie disc? Like, they don't know what that means exactly. There's different spectrums of blindness, but not everyone has the same blindness, and so some people can read it but others can't. There's a situation there where suddenly we don't know what a fucking burger is for the people who are blind. So it again doesn't make any sense. None of this makes sense in the slightest. It's just absolutely absurd. And again, people have been calling it this for years, even long before the fucking blow up of veganism. Now, when that boomed in popularity, it's always been called these things, and there's even this discussion about scallops being restricted to products that contain meat. Calling scallops I used to have when I was vegetarian, but always called fucking scallops, not just 10 years ago, but almost 20 years ago. So, what gives? Nobody who's struggling to find this. I've known nobody in that time who's bought a fucking corn scallop and said, it don't taste like scallop, don't look like it. Like, as if they haven't read it. I've never heard anything like that. So again, where is this coming from? Obviously obvious. There's no other fucking explanation here. And the same with, like, I don't know, going back to the, well, what was I saying? Actually, like, spades are spades, but spades are made differently. You got different types of spades. Like, it's called a variation. It's called an alternative. There's different labels for these things. And restricting them means that you exclude many different people's, I'd say, rights. Like, it is literally a sort of right to have these things. If I wanted to get, say, the Fairphone over a Samsung, if Samsung suddenly says, like, you can't have any other phone but Samsungs because those are the only phones that exist, and suddenly they take the name, and then Apple calls their stuff, and probably Google calls it, smart device or something, which will confuse people, for starters. But then I can't necessarily see like a fair phone because it has phone in the name and the label's just gone. It's like fair smart device. What the fuck does that mean? If I'm allowed to buy that because it's like it's got the name it is, but what? I don't exactly remember what I was about to say, but the point is, it's still so stupid to say that a phone can't be a phone. And a variation of a phone at that. Because this is what could happen as well. Plant-based products are just stop because it can affect every other industry, especially if these governments are that corrupt. So we have this problem of, again, like, I've forgotten what the term is, nomenclature. I think that's what it is, but I could be wrong. We're like defining the definitions and basically the meanings behind things, like variations. You know, alcohol has different names, by the way. You know, if only one wine could be called like red wine, that if only red wine can exist, then what the fuck do you call the rest? Like white alcohol? Like, it makes no sense. And the thing with the oat milk and oat drink thing, there's already some of that in the UK already, but I still see it as milk. Want to know why? Because it's always been referred to that. It's referred to it billions of times on the internet. It's referred to it by millions of people, like hundreds of millions, because a lot of people drink it. And so changing the definition is absolutely fucking stupid. Like, you have to have been dropped on the head as a baby. There's no other explanation. To think that people were confused by that. You know, if I see cow's milk, that's cow's milk. But it's not labelled as cow's milk. The problem is, people label it as milk, so nobody actually knows what it fucking is. And let's not even go into the fact that it's mainly filled with pus, blood, and other chemicals. Again, you can't exactly name it milk because it's not actually a general term. It's the thing to describe what's been supposedly excreted or created. And obviously that happens for different reasons. But that's why you call it milk. It's like a white substance with nutrients for supposedly young children, young babies, no matter. It's actually for babies anyway. But, you know, if you're taking issue with the fact that it's called milk, like oat milk, why are you just taking issue with the fact that it's for fucking babies to begin with? Well, that's my bigger problem. Because even then, like, I'd be happy with the term drinks, like cow drink, oat drink, as a compromise, because that's literally what it fucking is. At the end of the day, nobody's using it as a necessarily like nutritional thing, for most people anyway. And you probably shouldn't anyway, to begin with, because it's not healthy. It's not healthy for children. So, it's extremely dangerous when we start getting into this, because this is only like surface level. You know, nobody's gonna forget what a vegan burger is. Like, not even in a decade, not even in 100 years. Burgers have always fucking existed, and they've existed in many forms. You get all types of burgers. So if you're trying to say that nobody can have that term except for beef farmers or even chicken farmers or whoever owns this now, then you're just making a monopoly, and that's not only illegal, but that's a human rights violation. Because it affects many people in the long run, and if you become a monopoly and say, like, it's turning into that Black Mirror episode I have an idea of, like, I've created. It's like forcing people to buy only these products because they decided, no, you can't have plant products anymore. That's fucking absurd. You know, they're probably gonna go against not plant-based, lab-grown meat. just because they can't profit from animal farming anymore, which again is fucking absurd. Like, I'll get into lab-grown meat for sure. The reason why is because it doesn't breach any sort of issues. Ethically, it's fine, from what I know anyway. Health-wise, it's on the same terms as meat, as far as I know, as well. Well, we had to see a study on that, I guess, but judging by the structure and how they've discovered it and made it, it seems to act like meat, so, you know, not good for health exactly, but good for a treat. And it'll probably be good for feeding carnivorous pets as well. Let's be honest, that's probably gonna happen. But there's no thing that's actually morally wrong with it, so I don't understand why people are making this out to be a big problem. Why the lobbyists are. Because this was never actually a problem. You know, I never had, like, even elderly people, I've never seen testimonies, even my own folks, say that they've struggled when picking milk. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And in the UK as well, I'm not sure how it is everywhere else. But the vegan and vegetarian stuff are usually put aside, like in a different shelf area to everything else except for niche products like crisps and stuff and chocolate. But they're always put to the side somewhere else. So it's hard to miss. But it's there, you know what the section looks like, and you know everything there is either vegetarian or vegan. So we've never had an issue with finding these products. We've never gone to like a dairy shelf to begin with because of this anyway. But if you were to suddenly put things there, as Beyond Meat apparently tried to do, it sort of made them lose some revenue because nobody went there, then yeah, like people can read it, they don't get confused. And I've seen countless times that people who've actually ended up coming across Beyond Meat, I think they've read it and they know that it's plant-based meat. So it's not a matter of confusion. Those that have found it and picked it up, mistaking it, end up liking it because they don't know the difference. And this is other really dumb thing. What the fuck is this? Look at the BBC article. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, whose party is a key member of the EPP, fully backs the ban. Says a sausage is a sausage. Sausage is not vegan. What a fucking joke. Like, if that wasn't a joke, then what the hell do you mean by that? Like, you have to define a sausage as well. You can't be this fucking stupid. Like, what is a sausage then? Because I don't know what it clearly is. To me, it's a shape. That's what I've known it to be. So it's making something plant-based in the shape of a sausage suddenly not a sausage. But that's next level stupidity. Like, come the fuck on. Even a child can figure that out. So, there's no definition of what a sausage is. There's not a mention of if it's pork or beef or chicken. Well, there's nothing like that. So, what gives? Like, is a battered sausage not a sausage then? It's extremely fucking stupid. It's what I mean. Like, these are variations because it even affects things that was just built on top of it. You know, like currywurst. Like, you have that in Germany, don't you? I've never tried it. No, I think of bratwurst, not currywurst. That's like a variation of a sausage. It's extremely fucking stupid. There's no other term to describe this. You know, you could throw all these points about the discussions around these and like what people have said and quote them. You haven't addressed the point about variation and freedom, really. Because I can just go to the kitchen suddenly and say grab a bunch of onions, grab some, I don't know, sage and onion mix, put that together, make a sage and onion sausage. By your very definition, I'm not allowed to call that a sausage. But why? That's what I want to know. What is exactly the problem with making something that appears like the thing that it's mimicking? And what else do I call it then? This is the final thing that I think I'll talk about here before I have a heart attack. So, what do you suggest as an alternative? As an alternative name? Because as I said, like, it's like turning beef burgers to beef discs or something. Or plant-based discs even. So talking about that, like, vegan discs, I don't know what to call it. But that's the problem. Like, what else do we call it? Do you call it like vegan fingers or something? And then suddenly they can't name it fingers because it means that company has already used the name fingers for their product. Is like gonna sue you for it? Are you kidding me? Like, you're trying to police people on creativity. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. The burger itself is not strictly defined as a product of meat. It's by the shape that it has and basically its construct, like how you make it. It's often disc shaped, it's often round, often 3D as well. Yeah, you rarely see like a flat one, it's usually called slices anyway. Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, it's going to be a fucking lot of seeing if they have a sort of list of products that you can't name something, and if they list alternatives, like what the hell are they going to name it? Like, arguably the most confusing thing is actually having like a numbered list. Like, that's probably one of the worst ways you can affect the products in the end. But people will still look at the images and still figure it out anyway. So if burgers are like number 785 or something, just a random number, you would find like vegan 785s and refer to it as that. It's like, that's actually dystopian. It's absolutely fucking nuts. And what a bunch of selfish cons just to say people voted in favour of this. But Jesus Christ, you people are literally monsters because you're ignoring the fact that there wasn't a problem from this to begin with. There's no evidence, there's no solution, which is an important thing, and there's also no extent to which the lobbying, which by the way is corruption, we see through it, we know it's corruption, will stop at anything past that. Like, they'll literally go after it as a whole. They'll try to defund plant-based products, even though they're stupid enough to not realise that plant-based products have always existed. Tofu has always existed, seitan has already existed, soy has already existed. There's countless products, and you can't come after it all, because at the end of the day, when you limit those options, you also cause a massive fucking problem in people's health. Which again ties into that Black Mirror episode idea I had about only meat being available and people on the streets just suffering and dying as a normal thing and nobody taking any notice. That's the sort of world that you'll probably make by doing this. It's not good at all. It's sort of like the carnivore diet sort of thing. Countless people get ill on that. We've got a very demonstrable proof on that. So, I don't know. I don't really get it, again. That's my thoughts on that. The plant-based meat ban, whatever, label even. Yeah, disappointing. Again, people need to be investigated for corruption, so we'll see about that. Let's move on to the next topic. So, Black Mirror Season 3, Episode 6. Happens to be a pretty interesting episode, but I will say it's not a great episode, it's just good. That means there are some problems with it. Yeah, as usual, very dystopian, very scary. And the fact there's this entire background of like extinction and stuff. Like, that's pretty fascinating. And it seems that the bees were extinct as well. So that's why they had bee bots to essentially, well, restore the ecosystem. There's not really much else to say on that. That's why they were there, supposedly. And then discovered a death, Not sure what it was. The autopsy found the bee inside her. It's because of some hate crime and stuff. People saying that they wish this person dead. It supposedly happens from nothing. Someone else dies, also for a similar thing. Someone hating someone enough, a group of people even, to actually send death threats again. And that happens to a third person who they finally try to save, having known that the bees were the ones doing this. They're not sure who's controlling the bees exactly. They try to get to the bottom of it, investigating, and they find like a guy was really involved in the making of it, and found out that he was already fired from the company. So they know that he is the reason that these bees are killing people. He actually designed a system where if people on social media begin targeting these specific people that they hate, basically this guy Garrett, he obviously coded this and stuff, and he collected all the data through the system to target those people instead, with these hundreds of thousands, well, actually probably not billions of bees, actually technically speaking. But these billions of bees then turned on those 370 plus thousand people who made these death threat tweets. So it's pretty interesting. What it tells us is if we go to like surveillance, because that was actually one of the points in that, the bees were equipped with surveillance and they were spying on the people, and I'll cite that the government did specifically, which is really interesting because that means that the government is obviously complicit in this. Obviously, when the government people were targeted, was panicky. It's so bad of a thing to have happen, because it could literally happen to us any time now. Like, we've already got nanobots all being in development, so no matter time before we get things that contribute to the ecosystem, supposedly, and cause us more problems. Shatter windshields of cars start to get in stuff, start to be in the way, get on the floor, probably even spread across the world, like, who knows. There's so many issues with that. It's actually pretty crazy. It's unbelievable how scary that is. That's the situation. So, yeah, I don't really know what else to add, really. It is really scary. Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened there. Someone. Here's. Yeah, okay, so. There. That's weird. I was just playing Final Fantasy 14. Yeah. I don't know what's going on here. That's weird. That's what happens when you get a difference in skill gap. That's weird. Respawn time. Yeah. Anyway, this episode is just, again, pretty scary. I'm not really sure what else to say about it. It shows that one person is just selfish enough to be able to turn these things on everyone else. And it's scary because that means that nobody actually truly has any control. So it goes to show that there's really not many options in that situation. And also, it does expose that bad people are doing bad things. You know, what the hell are you promoting political violence or things? But this is sort of related to even a recent topic with Charlie Kirk. Like, this could have easily happened if we had the technology. It could have happened in such a worse way. There's worse situations we could be in as a result. Though even like, they didn't explore the concept, but literally it could be like gangs doing this shit. People start making groups and gangs to essentially address that, to make it out that a specific person needs to be killed, and then they die. Like, it's really fucking horrific. There's something we really do not need, really do not want, because if it does happen, we're pretty much fucked. It means that anyone could be targeted, and it'll just cause such devastation in the end that we won't really be able to recover from it. But it's a scary episode, but the flaws, I guess, are to do with how the fuck did it work. Because I tend to like explanation and stuff, and there is usually an explanation in these episodes anyway of Black Mirror. This one didn't really have it. I was surprised, because it usually explains stuff, but this time it's like, nah, you're not getting one. So we got the surveillance thing, obviously, which is good. It didn't really explain how the fuck the bees knew to kill people. Unless it's like in the code, which could have been explained. It's sort of like a guess more than anything. It could literally be in the code that I do not know. So something really weird is going on. It's fucking yeah, what the hell? I'm almost dead. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Okay, just typing. It's weird. So, I don't really know. It's hard to say. I think with this episode, it definitely is scary. Like, there's no fucking doubt about that. You do not want a situation like this, especially with like murder here as well, which no doubt that could be. That could very well be the case. And murder AI is a scary enough concept as is. But if we allow that to happen, then, you know, we're truly fucked. This is the end of humanity. I did see a sort of title post in YouTube recommendations saying that we have, what is it? I think about 10 years to solve the AI situation before it just becomes too late. So yeah, it's very concerning. It's also a matter of time before you even start seeing people like experiment with that shit, goes to fucking darker places and actually target people just for no reason. Like, you get gangs with like a fucking egghead, and the egghead will then target actual people as an experiment, actual targets. They have like bounties or something. And yeah, that's when we truly fucked up, real. So it's very concerning, as I keep saying. But hopefully this doesn't become a reality. So yeah, overall, so it's a decent episode, and that's the other thing, I guess. Like, I'm divided on whether the fact that the guy pushed the button in the end to say yes, deactivate all of the bees. I forgot what they're called like A somethings. But there is something morally questionable with that, in the fact that he probably prevented hundreds of thousands more, because that could have gone on for longer, and the guy could have been maybe not caught. Maybe the guy could have been caught, actually, if it weren't for the supposed, what was it? Fuck. The post, that's it, the hashtag death2 post, which is how they collected it, really. So it could have even been caught sooner. But, of course, that was pretty much squandered. So, yeah, I don't really know, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely up for debate with that. The fact that it probably prevented many more deaths. I did get a bit confused. I thought the blonde lady who was shadowing that other one actually put a death2 post there, but wasn't supposedly targeted, and then appeared at the end, tracking down Garrett. I was a bit confused on that, I'm not gonna lie. Unless I got the characters mixed up and there's like a third blonde lady or something, a second even. That's interesting though. Definitely an episode worth watching. It's interesting, just not great, so let's move on. So let's do an outro for this, because I know it's gone on for long enough. I probably will cut some topics out, because it feels a bit off this week. I'm not feeling there at the moment. It's really frustrating. Oh, I got enjoy UK SOS Plan. Yep, protesting works. Yep. Well, stop looking at horror creepy. I might remove that because it feels kind of silly, but basically it's anxiety. Well, I won't play Digimon. Yes, it's an interesting one. Conspiracy theories are immoral. Yeah, pretty much. Win me over reform. Yep. Selective Religion. Not sure about this one. I might leave it for next, but I don't know. It's a weird topic. Jaws, yeah, I could remove that. Agreeing to take it seriously, yep. Sort of movie. Then AI is not creativity. I forgot to add to that, but I'll add it here. With AI, you can literally try to imitate the things or mesh clips together. I only realised that after, which is annoying. So it is another thing for it, I guess. Anyway, the next thing was Windows 11 update. The other thing was relationship language, and then plot-based meat pan, and then Black Mirror. Yeah, so there's definitely a few that I'm going to keep around for sure. So anyway, thanks for listening. See you on another time.